How many NRM members do you have? The NRM members, as per now, are 24 million. The members start from 16 years onward to the last man standing at the highest age. That will be sieved further when we have the structure elections. Because when we have structure elections, we shall have the baraza, and the baraza will help us because we shall be reading names in every village. And if we find any name doubted or who died in the few days, may God forgive me for saying that, we shall actually delete and the final number could drop, but for now that's the number. Number two, in the number of members, there are also 16 years, 17 years who are not voters. Those are not going to affect us because we shall sieve them and ultimately come up with voters. But voters might be about 19.4 as per the last cross-check I had with the Secretariat. What about the NRM primaries? The NRM roadmap is a procedural roadmap. It was approved by SEC with amendments. It was presented to members of the caucus today. The final dialogue will be with the chairman of the party because he was out on national and Pan-African duties in South Sudan. And then we shall actually have a day to officially release it. But that does not mean we cannot tell you the highlights. One of the issues we shall sort out is structure elections. We think that structure elections will start on April 24th with a call for expression of interest. The call for expression of interest will go up to 30th April. Once we finish, we shall then have elections of the structure on May the 6th. The structure is the foundation of the party. The NRM party is a mass line party. And all that should be is that the members at the lowest, the village level, or the cell, or the branch, are the members who are the most important. The most important does not mean you disregard others. But this party relies on the last person at the village. And that is the election we are going to start with. Once you have a strong base of members, the 30 per village, times the 72,000 villages, you have about 2.5 million leaders of NRM in the country based at the village. To uproot such a party is not so easy. It has the largest canopy of leaders in Africa. If you make the trajectory, that is the party which owns the country. Because it owns the country by having leaders at every level. But the first level is in the 72,000 villages. So that is structure will start on, that election will start on 6th, and it will continue up to the district. We shall give you the details in the roadmap. We shall have parish. At the village election will be based on a college system. Members of the village come up to elect the mainstream, which are the 5, that is chairperson, vice chairperson, secretary, treasury, publicity, up to that, the 5. And then elect the committee members. Those total to 30. Now, when we come up with leaders of institutions within those villages, at times it comes to 35. That election starts on May the 6th. After that, then we go to the parish. When we go to the parish, it is now a family election of NRM members, closed up in a college. You are not a member of the village, you didn't start the structure at the village, you cannot enter at the parish. It is like an assembly of hens. Hens can have cocks and hens for eggs. Ducks cannot enter because their configuration is different. So after that, we go to the sub-county. So the 30 elected at parish level within a sub-county now move as a college into the sub-county. And when the sub-county elect, they move into the district. That will happen in the whole country, and it will take us exactly 3 to 4 weeks. By the time we reach the district is when we allow entry, because there are workers coming, because workers are not there at the village or the parish. That's when entrepreneurs come in. That's when even other national leaders come in. The joining now is after the sieving, and at district level, the bulk here from village, parish, and sub-county can tell that you entering at the district is our member and we know you. So at the district is when we shall allow entry of higher level politicians who want to compete for other positions. That election will then take us to delegates who will form the assembly, which we call the Nambole Assembly, part of them. The next election will be for members of parliament. Members of parliament election will take place before election of LOC 3 and LOC 5 chairpersons and councillors, so that we have a trajectory. The one for members of parliament, expression of interest, will be June 2nd to June 15th. You must come in with your papers and you move on. And of course, nomination will take place, and election of members of parliament we expect to take place July 16th. And after that, we shall have other elections for LOC 5, July 24th. Then we shall continue with LOC 3, 22nd August. What am I saying in brief? The NRM roadmap is a detailed document concerning election of the categories I've stated, and also the special interest groups at different levels. Because we tend to elect special interest group for the older persons, for the PWDs, the people with disabilities, for the youth. And all this election leads us to a big population at the National Delegates Conference, where we shall again elect national leaders for the party, the SEC, and also members like the youth MPs, the MPs for people with disabilities, MP of the elders. So it is a detailed election, and NRM Electoral Commission has now started that journey. That then shows, then what about the issue of joint campaign? The issue of joint campaigns in NRM as a party, dictated by Article 44(4) of the Constitution. Article 44(4) of the Constitution dictates that the NRM is a family, and all campaigns must be a family campaign. We are aware that there are people who mudslinging the current MPs or even others. They are aware those who orchestrate propaganda, the propagandists. They are aware those who have character assassination, who want you to talk in the face of the other. You tell the members what you would have said in silence or in secrecy, and the other person has the right to respond. That is the rationale. It is a campaign of a family members that belong to NRM. It's a campaign that should not tear the party. It's a campaign where we want issues rather than sentimentality. So this election will be governed by Article 44(4) of joint campaign. When there are serious cases, the NRM Electoral Commission will intervene, but overall, we are going to have joint campaigns. The other thing you asked me about the independents. Any election that is not free and fair will produce disgruntled members of the party, and they can be independent. We are trying our best. That last time, 2020, we didn't have a register. Now we have a credible register to the extent of 90%. A register process does not end. It is perfected every time. We expect that by July, we shall have a register acceptable to the members, and if we can handle election free and fairly, there's no need for people to come as independent. So independent is not a choice. It is simply how we handle the election. Of course, there are also losers who don't want to be losers. I've seen petitions of 628 votes. A person said, I should have won. Yet the winner has 40 or 50,000 votes. That is human nature. If you read Thomas Hobbes' philosophy, you'll read the nature of man. Egoistic, sentimentality, very greedy, and does not accept defeat. To me, the dates on the roadmap have gone through. Rachel wanted to know the issue of primaries. I've answered. She also wanted to know something about the joint campaign. And then Sam, the president, was actually talking about the realignment of parliamentary activities with campaigns. How are we going to realign the business in parliament and the business out there of NRM primaries? The chief whip will answer that better because he knows the calendar, but I can tell you the roadmap simply guides. And once you are a candidate, you will then make a timetable for campaign. The beauty with the joint campaign is that when you are candidates now, you actually sit and agree on a program. But that's at the even primaries, they will agree on a program. And if you're a member of parliament and a sensitive committee called maybe natural resources, and you have that issue, you are free to tell members that on this day I'll not be there, let's push it to this day. But we don't want a lengthy campaign beyond 2 weeks because it is also very injuring to the country and the economy. And the issue of commercialization of politics is NRM paradigm. It is a third world economy politics recipe in Africa. Even in the modern world in USA, you cannot stand for any position until your financial credibility is worth standing. And that's why you see that people contribute money to a parliamentary candidate, a presidential candidate, to the tune that in the last election you had billions of dollars. But what is it we are saying about NRM? We want to interest you, members of NRM who are going for campaign, to read the law with regard to the illegalities during campaign. When we get you on illegalities, including but not limited to bribery, because you have a lot of money, the NRM Electoral Commission, that I now head for another term, will disqualify you. And then you appeal to the party central organ in charge of discipline. It will be you to appeal. Me, I'll have disqualified you because the powers in the Constitution allows me, the NRM Constitution allows me to disqualify you. Violence. Violence is a result of contenders. The way you speak to your supporters is the way they act. If you speak that you want peace and the world will not end if I lose, the supporters will follow you. I want to say a lot of counsel was given by the Vice President of Uganda. If I've ever loved the two, the President and the Vice President, I've loved them and her today. Because it was personal testimony about herself and how peace should be inculcated in the voters by those standing. The voters don't start violence. Violence is started by those who want offices. And we want also to call upon the security apparatus, especially our senior people, the RDCs, that this is a party election where you don't need to take side and crack the boat and crack the party. We are going to meet RDCs. We are going to have different meetings with all stakeholders. We are going to meet the security bosses, especially the police that coordinates all the other security organs during election. And we agree on how to work. I thank you. Fee is actually scattered. I've not got it here, but there is expression of interest fee for all categories, starting with the presidency downwards. When we meet in the press conference by the Secretary General, we shall give you all that detail, because this is not my area, this is not my premise. I am a visitor in this house. I thank you. The visitor should not leave the sitting room to the kitchen.
To respond to, there was a question posed why today's NRM Parliamentary Caucus meeting was chaired by the Vice President, and also we kind of unpacked on the tips on wealth creation. Both under the NRM Constitution and the NRM Parliamentary Caucus Rules of Procedure. The chairperson of the NRM Parliamentary Caucus is the Government Chief Whip. And today's meeting, for all intent and purposes, was constitutionally and under our rules of procedure chaired by the Government Chief Whip in principle. Our Excellency the Vice President represented His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda. And you all know that His Excellency the President is the national chairperson of NRM. But in today's meeting, the Vice President represented the President of the Republic of Uganda. That settles that question. On the tips on wealth creation, you are equally aware that in the post-independence history of Uganda, the national resistance movement has gone on record as the first ruling party to introduce wealth creation initiatives. But in as far as today's tips on wealth creation mobilization was concerned, the emphasis were on Emyoga and PDM. The beneficiaries of PDM in all parishes in Uganda, the prospective beneficiaries of PDM in all parishes in Uganda are represented by members of parliament, and the majority of whom are members of the NRM. Similarly, the beneficiaries at constituency level of Emyoga and the prospective beneficiaries of Emyoga at constituency level are equally represented by members of parliament, majority of whom are members of the national resistance movement. So the presentation on tips on wealth creation mobilization was meant to reawaken, to remobilize, to reassure, to reassemble, to remind members of the NRM to continue mobilizing, to continue monitoring the trillions of shillings that the NRM government has injected into the various wealth creation initiatives. So that was the gist of that particular presentation by the senior presidential advisor on mobilization, to remind ourselves that we have a social contract with the people of Uganda. We made a commitment to introduce wealth creation initiatives. We went ahead and introduced. We have injected resources. The beneficiaries fall within the areas that you represent. Continue mobilizing those who have benefited. Continue mobilizing those who have not benefited, because these programs are not ending. We have now implemented them for the last 3 to now 4 financial years consecutively. So that was the gist, because this is our own baby as NRM. We must continue reminding our members to ensure that the baby or the babies are not strangled, because there are not only 2. We have Emyoga, we have PDM, we have the youth livelihood, we have a WAPE for women, we have the special grant for persons with disabilities, we have the special grant for the older persons. Recently, there is also GROW, among many other wealth creation initiatives. Members of UPPA, as you are aware, today the NRM Parliamentary Caucus meeting was convened, and with me I have the chairperson of the NRM Electoral Commission, and we are also joined by 2 commissioners. Our practice normally is to come and brief you with our resolution. So may I proceed, then thereafter we shall have a question and answer session. National Resistance Movement Parliamentary Caucus meeting 4th April 2025, Office of the President. Resolution. We, members of the National Resistance Movement Parliamentary Caucus, meeting at Office of the President on this 4th day of April 2025, having received, discussed and internalized the report on the NRM Voters Register and NRM Party Roadmap, having further received a presentation on the tips on wealth creation mobilization, warmly appreciative of the leadership and guidance role provided by His Excellency the President in convening and guiding the NRM Parliamentary Caucus meeting under the leadership of Her Excellency the Vice President, do hereby resolve as follows. 1. That we have received, discussed, and adopted the report of the NRM Secretariat on the National Resistance Movement Voters Register and the National Resistance Movement Political Roadmap 2024 to 2027. 2. That we have received and discussed the presentation on tips on wealth creation mobilization.